everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can paint this gorgeous scene of a sunset with delicate grass shapes. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to help me bring this lesson to you by making sure that the camera is pointing at the techniques that I'm explaining and demonstrating, the tools that I'm using, the colors that I'm mixing, everything. Every part of this is going to be broken down so that you can absolutely paint along at home. I'm really going to explain everything. To be able to find your way through the video, this video is time-stamped in chapter marks. Then you can find where you were and come back to the same place if you're wondering what we're going to do. It's not very long, so I think you're going to be surprised at how much you can get done in not too long of a time painting along at home. I am going to be demonstrating how to get these fine lines, how to thin the paint, how to create these cloud shapes. All of that is going to be available for you. Always check the description where I like to hide all that extra detail. Also, your traceable and your other resources are on the website, theartsherpa.com. So be sure and go by and find the video page linked in the description below as well so that you can get those resources. Guess what else?
What's that?
We've got a giveaway. So check the comment section of the video because I have put the rules and terms and conditions and all the stuff that you've got to do. We're going to be giving away a month of membership to our patronage. So one lucky viewer could win that. All you got to do is leave a comment with the hashtag #TheArtSherpa in the comment section below. If you're on YouTube, it's after the show because you can't do it in the live comment section. The comment thing doesn't see it. If you're on Facebook, anytime because it can see it. It's just how that works. All right, John, are you ready to paint this painting?
I am.
I'm ready to paint it with you guys. Be sure if you're going to be asking questions to put those all in caps during the live show so that we know it's a question. I promise you we won't think that you're yelling at us at all. All right, get your paint, get your brushes, come back. Let's do this. On today's surface, we're going to be doing an 8x8 stretch canvas. The colors that I'm using today are Mars Black, Cad Yellow Medium, Cad Red Medium, Dioxazine Purple. It looks a little bit like black, but it's actually purple. Phthalo Blue, and Titanium White. I am going to be using one of my pouncers today to create my little sun. And really, it's going to be kind of fun, simple techniques and a fun, simple design to give us a gorgeous finished painting, John.
All right.
Not going to have to get too deep today. I always like it when we get back to the beginning, but do beautiful art that people are so proud to have made. So I'm excited to see what you guys do. Let's put up the first step. Step one, John.
Step one.
Step one. It is the beginning of the beginning. I like the beginnings because the beginnings are usually pretty friendly to us and fairly easy. We are going to be doing kind of a dramatic sky, but it's one that we've done a few times before. And honestly, when you know the tools and the techniques, it's pretty doable even if you're new to painting. I'm going to use a fun, super powered brush. This is a mop brush. Sometimes these are called oval mops or round blenders or ultimate varnish brushes. They have a bunch of names, but what you're looking for is sort of an oval brush, about an inch, and that has a synthetic filament. This one happens to be a Princeton. I really also like the ultimate varnish brush by Silver Brush Limited. So any of those are good. It's just nice to have. It looks like a makeup blender, doesn't it, John?
Yeah, a bit.
Now,
Very soft and floofy.
The other trick that I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just mist my surface. This is just a micro mister from Amazon. Kind of like a facial mister. It's not a facial mister, but kind of like it. And I'm going to get a little of my yellow and I'm going to pull out a little of my red. And we're going to make kind of a little orange going on here. When I want it to be more orange, I'll get a little more red on it. Just the beginning. Just getting a beginning here.
It's kind of goldish.
Kind of goldish. All right, maybe a little more yellow. You can see I'm getting a little more yellow over here. Kind of blending that through. I'm going to rinse out. Dry off with a towel. Everything is still kind of wet and everything on the surface of my canvas. And then I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to come in with my brush and load up with some white. All the many ways we make this transition. We've done this transition a few times. What we find is that sometimes people accidentally get green. So I like to give you guys lots of little ways to lessen the green. You're always going to have some green. And if you observe the sky, it does too. It has a little green in it as well to the eye. So I have this here. I'm going to come in and get just a smidge of my blue and come blend this in. Canvas is still just wet enough to be allowing me to flow paint. Now, If you have student paints, you will need less water because they tend to blend and flow out easier. They have less pigment in them, so that just goes easier. And it's really also if you don't have too thirsty of a canvas. I'm going to bring this here. Coming down again with a little more blue. It's Ready Player Layer 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the trick here is, and this gives us the wow factor for the rest of the painting, besides drying this, but rinsing this brush and drying it out. I could probably blend with the same brush if I dried it out enough, but for convenience, guys, I'm going to just take another brush. This is a same brush by Royal and Langnickel.
Ah.
And I'm going to just come here with this soft brush and kind of blend these little areas together. Making sure that this is a very soft transition. My pressure is light, and I'm just allowing these colors to kind of work together.
It really does just lightly blend it.
Just lightly. Just a light blend. And it's going to let me do the next dramatic layer that I've got to do. I do not want to leave the paint on this brush like this. And the brush is really, for the blending part, best if it's dry. So I will wash it, rinse it out, put it to the side, dry this layer, and then come back for the next layer. So we're going to want to continue on creating our dramatic sky to put our grasses into, because it's this drama of the sky that the grasses are silhouetted against that makes it sort of fun. And there's been this really sort of magic moment right here. I don't know if you see it, John, where it's quite light.
Yes.
And I like it a lot. So I'm going to get my same brush. This is the same mop. And I'm getting it wet, not soaked. And that's what I'm going to look for, is the right amount of moisture. And
what is the right amount of moisture?
Not dripping.
We
don't want the paint to come out dripping. It still needs to be kind of opaque and perhaps thick. You can see I'm just using little curved brush strokes to get some of these little white fluffy clouds. See how it's like this? It's not circles, guys. It's a little C mark. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that I don't create too many repeated patterns, because that can be, somewhat problematic. I'm going to get a little bit of our yellow down here. I might need some more white and water and white. Kind of lighten this here and blend up. Always sort of fun to make these sort of fantasy, interesting skies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't like a fantasy, interesting sky? I do anyways.
I like it.
I'm going to get into my orange here. I'm going to take my red and my yellow. I've rinsed out this brush. Whenever I change colors, I'm going to rinse out this brush. And I definitely will be using the shape of the brush and the stroke to create a little sense of perhaps clouds, or, well, definitely clouds. Come down maybe a little more yellow through here. See, it just starts to create this free-form abstract shape almost. A little more red on it.
Very nice looking sky.
I like it a lot. It's a lot of fun for me. And then as I come down, I'm going to definitely include some more yellow. And the trick is trying to find the random shapes that are sort of revealing themselves on what you're doing as you're going. Because they'll show up. I'm going to bring some white and yellow back in down here at the bottom. See, I'm on this corner when I want it to be like a little corner bit, and then I'll come here and
then you just get a little bit of light sky dancing.
Little bit light sky dancing. That's beautiful, John. Yeah, light sky dancing. Let's keep curling this. Look at that. It's just making its own little space. And I can come back with yellow. Create some more color there. Oh, I like that a lot, right? It's quite dramatic down here. Lots is happening. Lots is happening. And we want a lot to happen. I'm going to rinse out. Now there's a real fun bit of color I want to bring in. But first, let's get some blue and white going. And we're going to come in and bring this in almost as a counter sky. See how I'm kind of working it back?
Oh, yeah.
Just being playful. I don't want to take out everything I did here, but maybe kind of get that going.
Some sky in there.
This is just a different way of doing things. Little curls. And you just, what I'm doing is I'm preventing myself from getting so into the pattern that you can't see the sky at all. Now the orange is dry, so I could bring some blue down over the orange, which can be very exciting visually.
Visually
exciting. And so I have this sort of layering of a very dramatic little sky. Something different, something playful. And we've got this purple here. And what I'm going to do with the purple is I'm going to load up a lot of purple and just a smidge of my red.
Oh.
And then I'm going to get my white. It's going to make this purple kind of really be sensible. It's going to make sense in this sky. That little bit of red. I'm going to bring on the corner of this brush just a little bit of that purple. You can come back into the darker purple back here. A little bit into the lighter. Just a little bit. I'm just using the brush, and the brush kind of creates these little fun forms.
Very dimensional.
It is dimensional, and it's just playful. Let's just be playful, guys. Every once in a while, we can just be playful. A little bit of white here. And just let the brush kind of starts to come apart in the water. And a lot of times in art, I'll be looking for little moments that I can exploit.
Mm-hmm.
And this brush gives me lots and lots of little moments to exploit. Just wiggling that back and forth. But we don't mind that there's some stuff peeking out, do we?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. We don't mind that at all. That's sort of fun.
Looking pretty cool.
It has a little moment here. Now I can come in with my damp brush in a couple places, like even sort of soften. All right, I can do that. Won't go where it's dry, but where it's a little damp, you can still soften and blend a bit. And that's something important to realize. The brush is just damp. It's not wet. If it was wet, it would just remove the paint. But if it's damp, then I can get in here pretty easily and play with that. All right.
Layered
interesting
blending.
little bit of thing.
It's funny how the colors can push forward and draw back the clouds.
It really is, right? Let's get back into the orange. Make sure that I've got a little bit there. I just keep playing with it till I find a sky that I'm excited about. You got to find the sky that you're excited about.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there somewhere. Something playful. Something fun. Something unexpected. All right, let's call that a step, and we're going to come back and kind of pull this sky all together. I'm going to dry it first, though. So in this step, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be going through and kind of creating some drama and lighting and things that you might expect on clouds now that we've sort of free-formed all these little clouds out. And I'm going to show you the brush that I really like for this. This is a Princeton Select round blender. Here is an old one that I have, and here is a new one. So you can see that they do wear out over time. It's a similar shape to my cloud brush. And you could use my cloud brush if you really softened it. The thing is this is more of a scumbler and this is more of a blender. And that's the difference between those two. So I'm going to use a blender because I want that softness right now. I want the softy softness. So I'm going to take a little of my orange, coming in. And get a little bit of heat going on under perhaps some of these little clouds.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing it out. I add a little white to it. Just to show that it's there. Got to think about those things. And these are just little interesting details. A lot of it, the grasses will definitely come and break some of the line, but having interesting line can really help you in creating a sky that sticks with you. I do like to rinse out on occasion. A little orange. Perhaps coming through here. And working it down here. I go into my red. And I've tipped the top of that cloud. A little bit of red. This is just playful time. Now, you don't have to worry about what atmospheric conditions created this. Gonna grab a little white. You just get to enjoy painting it. And again, similar brushstroke if you'll notice. Right? It's sort of a curving brushstroke. We don't necessarily do circles. We're not making little cotton balls. I use this brushstroke to sort of build up the little peaks and valleys of the clouds.
Yeah.
And
how do you know where a peak is versus the valleys?
That's something I think that you intuitively gather over time. You observe a lot of clouds and you paint a lot of clouds, and then you'll be like, oh, I really like this particular cloud shape over maybe another particular cloud shape. And you start to lean into those maybe more than others. Right? Like I can get a little of this purple and a little of this white. I feel like I've seen some things coming into this particular sky, and so I want to exaggerate some of those. Come in and add a little highlight to this. So where the cloud is lighter, the reason like sometimes when you're painting loosely and you'll see a cloud shape just come in.
Yes.
Like you weren't really like specifically painting the cloud, but it came in, is because those lights and shadows and those soft shapes really make us think of clouds. Come in here with the highlights of the purple and then kind of working some of these helps these sort of come off as more cloud-like. Brush up and come into the purple and then kind of brush up on this one. And it's okay here. I feel like right here, I'm going to need another little, just to balance out this sky.
Yeah.
Something where the purple and the orange are balancing each other out. Just lifting it up there. Look at that unexpected sky that just comes out of nowhere.
Really
Rinse
does.
out thoroughly.
Just appears.
It does just
It's like
appear.
you just look up and there's a sky there.
Now I'm going to highlight the undersides of these clouds as if there's a light ring that's happening here because we're going to make one. You know, when I just sit down and I'm like, oh, I want to paint a sky, but I don't have like a particular reference in mind, you know, per se, maybe a color scheme and a couple of skies that I'll have grabbed from online. There's this sort of meditative space that you get into where you're like, ooh, I found a cloud right here. See how we're finding these little clouds?
Are you finding the clouds or the clouds finding you?
You know, it's an interesting argument, isn't it? Where do the clouds come from? I'm going to get a little bit of this yellow into our phthalo blue and really go a little more turquoise, like what we have here. I like this turquoise. Kind of exaggerate it. Maybe between these and just pull these little thoughts. Right, the hues over there. And then when this is all done, I'm going to grab my small pouncer. And I'm going to get just a little bit of white, and I'm going to twirl the pouncer. This is the Art Sherpa pouncer, but there are other pouncers. This is just my pouncer, and I like my pouncer, obviously. You know, who would not like their own pouncer? And I'm going to come here and create a little sun. Now, I do see, you know, sometimes artists like put a sticker down. But I like the little active. Just popping in a little pouncer there. Now make sure that you put your pouncer in water because you don't want the paint to dry on it. You know, you wouldn't want that in any way. And one of the things that you're going to do once you have your sun is you can go back into your blender and just make sure that it's showing. And I'm pulling the yellow there. That's going to help create that space where the sun is showing. Unexpected, right?
Yeah.
What a dramatically fun sky. Good thing to practice for your clouds, for your skies. Like, how can I, you know, kind of create clouds? How do I create those shapes? How do I create that drama? Just for fun, just for play. Okay, this is a step. We're going to come back. We're going to put in some grasses. So now that I have this in, I kind of know where my sun is. I'm going to use this. This is a number 2 precision brush by Raphael, but it's very long. It's like my monogram liner. It's a long distance out on the brush, and I may have to switch this, but I'll start trying with this because it'll load more paint. The reason I would use the bigger brush is it will give me more paint load so I can take it out further before I have to reload. If it doesn't give me a fine enough point, I'll switch to the rigger, the monogram liner from Silver. I'm going to take a little of this water to my black paint, just my black paint. And I'm going to try to come around and create some grasses that are coming from off the viewpoint and are very fine coming over. Oh, that's nice. I like that.
The art.
Maybe there's going to be another little one that comes up here.
Ooh.
I got a little thicker on that
Some tallish
stem,
grass.
so I'm going to come back down. So when I press harder, it thickens.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't necessarily want the grass that thick. But I'm going to come in and see if I can't. Make that work a little bit. Thinning the black paint. That's where I'm just incorporating water and you see me rolling it out. Maybe another little line. This one could be shorter. And perhaps somebody coming off from the side.
Ooh. How do you select those grass spots?
What I'm looking for is a balance of the lines because the lines are part of the composition. This is, this particular composition is going to look like what it is, right? But that being said, I still have to have balance around the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make a little run of very fine little grass-like hairs coming out here. And they're going to do this about every few with the joints. And then we'll have to do little seed pods. See how we're bringing those up?
Mm-hmm.
Come pick a little joint, perhaps. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that it's got that look that natural objects will sometimes have. Up here, it can be a little bit thicker. Bring those around, pulling those out, starting to define those. Now, his little friend, maybe he's going to start here. They're kind of layered on each other. So that's a nice little bit of interesting lines, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
How they cross and create little intersections.
Which brush is that?
This is the number 2 Raphael Precision. I could do this with my number 1 monogram liner as well. But I wanted a brush that would have a little more paint in the load for the length of time that I would be doing this. Because these little hairs coming out, or we're going to put little seeds or those little seed textures. Come down a little bit lower here. I'm going to get a little water and thin it again. If I start getting a little dry brush effect where the brush is pulling apart and the paint isn't fluidly covering, then I know I don't have enough water. There's an issue with the load, and so I'll go back and reload. Just enjoy this painting process.
Mm-hmm.
You can paint a lot of interesting subjects that you don't expect, like grasses. Grasses can be a very interesting subject. All right. There we go. Doing the same thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
You just find that little load, and the black lines really create some stark drama.
They really do. It makes it like it sets this, it grounds it. There we go. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm doing a little lighter. It's a little lower. Now, I may turn my surface, and I highly recommend to you that when you're painting, if there's an area where you have a stronger brush stroke, move your canvas into that stronger brush stroke. Don't fight like where you're struggling. There's no need to do that. In a way, this is nature's abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Random sunset skies with little grasses making strong lines. And we know what it is, and it is an object, subject that we understand, but also there's something just unexpected with it.
Yeah.
That can surprise us. And I love that part. You see, I'm just on the toe. Like to come down into these little joints and work from them like the grasses do.
Ooh.
As the grasses do.
As they do.
Alrighty. Look at that. Let's call that a step. And then we'll come back and do the beautiful little grassy seed pods that are going on.
All right.
They're also kind of fun. So in this next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting the little details at the ends of the little stalks that are the little grass seed pods. Now there's a bunch of little ways you can do it. I could take my number 1 monogram liner I mentioned earlier, or the same precision brush, and just sort of very carefully paint this little texture, right? And remember how I said got a little thick here, but I wasn't that worried about it?
Mm-hmm.
This is why I thought I could kind of come in and make it okay. So you see that we can do that. And then you can even exaggerate some of the lines, which I will be doing with a number 1 mono. I'm going to exaggerate those little lines. But what I think I can do is take a brush called a grainer or comb, and I can make these little lines. I'm going to test it. Let's find out if I'm right. Because what I like to do is discover if I'm right with you with no rehearsals. That's what I like to do. But I just feel like I could.
Let's just try it out.
I do feel like that's actually really nice. I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
That worked out.
It did. Might not have. But experience sometimes tells you that certain things will come together, even if you don't know it for sure yet.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I like to do stuff like this, where I know I have a tool that will get the effect, is because sometimes the 1 stroke by 1 stroke technique, like painting every hair with a tiny hairbrush, could just take you so long that you'll never know when you're done. And you'll see me kind of filling in some of these. And then at the end, I can come back with the number 1 monogram liner and add those little delicate hairs that come away from the grass. So we can literally paint a subject that is this common and this simple and this mundane.
Yeah.
In a way that really elevates it.
True.
We can paint flowers, and that's wonderful. I think painting flowers is wonderful. But we can also just paint some rocks. We could also just paint some grass. And look at how that looks on the little spaces. I'm just sort of curving that in.
Mm-hmm.
When this is all done, it's going to be really lovely painting. So there's a little time involved in it. Now, if you do this small and you really like it, I would highly recommend you do it really big.
Oh, yeah, this would look beautiful.
Yeah, over the sofa on a 40 by 40 square would be just so stunning. You can't buy that at Target. You can buy some nice artwork at Target, seriously you can, but you can't buy this at Target. The one that you painted, that you make big, custom to your home. And sometimes we'll have, the grass heads will cross, and that's okay. It's not like the streams crossing in Ghostbusters. Nothing terrible will happen. Why do I amuse myself so much?
Well, you're very amusing.
I don't know if I am very amusing, but I do sometimes just tickle myself pink.
Mm.
And I try to notice where the grasses are crossing each other because that creates some very interesting patterns, even among the seed pods. It's going to be a little involved journey to do the end hairs too.
Yeah.
If you want, you could, bring the little grasses down, not to their ends, and try to make the line be the end pod. But I just find just better to do the end pod by hand and end hair. What is this brush again? It is a filbert grainer, or also known as a grass comb. It is a brush where all the little hairs are sort of trimmed out from each other.
Yeah.
So it makes these little textural brush strokes.
Little shape.
Yeah. And it has a bunch of uses. And I do recommend to put any of the brushes that I'm demonstrating. You can use what you have and paint along, but I do recommend them because they make the job easier. And whenever something makes the job easier, it's a good idea to embrace it. You're still respecting the technique. You haven't abandoned it. Look at this grass. Isn't it just fantastic?
It's turned out really cool.
And when these little lines come in at the end, it's going to be like, what? What? That's so cool. And I'm going to be like, I know, man. You don't paint enough grass. Not enough of it. I also like painting cattails. There's just certain weird plants. They're just fun to paint.
Here they are.
It is fun to thicken some of these. Then I might act like there's a forward-facing one here. Maybe the stem was closer to us.
Mm-hmm. I like how they come together like that.
It's just fun. I very much enjoy it. I may have to go back and get some more water and you thin it out because you want the paint to thin. Mm-hmm. It's about bringing a drop over here and incorporating and thinning that paint. You can use medium. I always get that question. Can you use medium? Yes. Yes, they make it. The reason that they make it is some people don't like to thin their acrylic paint with water. It is designed to be thinned with water, but as artists, their preference is to not do that. So they use products called mediums. So they don't have to. Nothing wrong with it. It's a choice. They made one. And we're allowed to make choices as artists like that.
Well, you should be making choices.
You should. That's right. You should. And you're allowed to. Doing these the little fussy bits of the seed pods. And again, we could probably be there at just seed pod. It's like a painting party painting, but we go the full way, right?
Mm-hmm.
We go all the way and you get the techniques because you can learn to paint. You absolutely can do this, guys. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be frustrating moments. There will be. For every artist, for all of time.
Yes.
Because that's part of the process of creativity is sometimes it's super relaxing and sometimes you're learning a new technique and it's a little frustrating. But what you need to realize is if you practice the technique and you don't give up and you persevere, you're going to get there. Like not good at perspective? Well, that's a skill that you can learn. Right? Not good at drawing? That's a skill that you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like maybe a further away one. Then I'm just doing a little bit lighter than the other ones. You'll notice that I'm just having a lighter hand with it. And I feel like this is just implying that this grass is maybe further away. Not as in focus as its friends. Making these little grass heads. This is one of those things where I think other sensible YouTubers fast forward.
I kind of like all this.
You like watching it go in grass head by grass head?
Well, then I know how you did it.
Well, and the reason that John and I are reluctant to fast forward through things is that you don't know how to manage then your expectations of how long it should take you. If you see a particular technique taking me a very short amount of time, then you're like, oh, that's not maybe something I have to be too worried about in a long time. But if it takes me a minute, then you're like not hard on yourself if you're not whipping through it in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on something where it feels like something is a silhouette, because people can assume that because it's a silhouette, it'll go so super fast. And, but if you're trying to capture the texture of something like this, you got to give yourself some time.
Even so, this hasn't taken that long.
No, but it's not 20 minutes with a piano.
No.
We could, no, I don't even want to play Claire de Lune, because anytime we play music, the copyright trolls hit our channel.
They do.
And it's just so annoying to have to put in the dispute and find the license again. And
they can auto challenge us, but we can't auto tell them to stuff it.
Oh, and they do now, John. They've all decided to auto challenge.
I know. We have to get an auto stuffer.
Auto stuff.
We can tell them to stuff it.
All right. So that's that step, right? We've got that basis of the grasses. Now we have to decide, will it be of interest to come and add those delicate little lines? I think it might be worth it. So let's come back and give that a try and see how that works on the painting. So now I'm going to add those last little delicate line details. I'm going to show you a trick. This is a pipette, little water pipette. I'm going to take a little bit of clean water over here and do a couple drops so that I can thin at the palette. Right here. I'm going to thin at the palette. Sorry. Thin at the palette. And I'm going to thin. And roll the brush. This is that #1 monogram liner. And I could have done all of the grasses with it, but I do like to have a longer brush and a springier step. I do like that little hair. What do you think of the hairs? Worth it?
Mm-hmm.
We have a bird hop that we do, and we vote on the birds. And one of the birds that almost got in but didn't quite get in was a bird on a cactus.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking a lot about how to do the spines.
The cacti bird.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do it just as a gift because he got so many votes and so many people wanted to do it. And I don't feel like I do enough desert art. And we have so many community members that live in the desert. Can you see how this is just adding a little extra? So sometimes that's nice. Doesn't have to be every one of them, but you can come in and just a few.
We even have folks live in the deserts of Canada.
That's funny, but we did learn there are deserts in Canada.
I know.
So that actually comes from someone came to an event who was from Canada, and they were asked about their desert dwelling on the plain. He shared that story with us. And we've been tickled ever since.
Because we lived in Canada.
Because we did live in Canada.
And we understand that Canada is, well, not that terribly different infrastructure-wise than the United States.
A lot more bear tolerant.
Yeah. So, but I mean, pretty much you drive from one side to Canada to the other side of Canada, And there are still, like, it's the roads and signs and peoples and buildings, just like you'd expect in America.
So what do you think about the added little tip at the end of the grasses, John? You like it?
Yeah. Now, the peoples are different, as they are in America.
I would say that's true.
But it's almost, we're kind of our coasts are very similar,
Mm-hmm.
with the differences between the middle and the north to the south, whereas Canada's like different coast to coast, because if you go more than a few hundred miles north, nobody lives there. It's too cold.
I think a lot of people live there. Well, not a lot. A lot is strong, but there are
Oh,
people that live there.
there are people who live there. And I mean,
There's a music festival that's pretty deep up north. That was sort of interesting.
But-
We didn't get to go,
no,
and I really wanted to go, but we didn't get to go.
but I think it's like 80% plus of the Canadian population lives within a few hundred miles of the border.
So look at that, John. What do you think?
That's pretty cool
It's kind of an interesting, unexpected little painting.
that we talked about Canada a lot on the end of.
I don't know why. It wasn't even like a Canadian landscape.
We could be. We
I'm gonna
don't
add
know.
some little kind of lines coming from the bottom, maybe a few places, just so that it's not big opens. And then I'll come here to the side and very carefully put on my little moniker
Oh, yeah.
in the black with my #1 monogram liner and say that we painted some grass today.
We did.
And how nice and relaxing was that? Not every painting has to be a big 10-hour landscape. Sometimes it's okay to spend a little time, practice your clouds and sky, create a little sunset drama, and make grass the subject of the painting and the way the lines. And, next time, here's what I say. Next time you're at a sunset and you're outdoors and you're sitting and you're observing, look at the way the light comes through these different grasses, especially late in the season, like now, where they're going to seed and they're making their kind of more interesting shapes and flowering and doing all of that. Because what you'll find is that there's these beautiful moments and movements in the blades. And then when the wind blows, oh my goodness, it's just, you can hear it. Can you hear it? It blows with you and it's like a music in the grass that I really, really love. And that quiet space. And then maybe something could fly by for a second and land on it and visit it and then move on. And you get this beautiful little thing. And as the sun goes down and I'm really into this. What is going on with me? All right, so apparently I really needed to paint some sunset with grass emotionally. Yeah. Hopefully you did too. Don't forget to enter the giveaway in the comments below. If you leave a comment with the hashtag #TheArtSherpa, you could win a month of patronage. We were doing pins, but we discovered that shipping was
very expensive.
Oh my God, everywhere. It's just with the COVID, so we're now giving away a month of patronage. So, less shipping. If you would like that, comment in the description down below. Terms and conditions apply, not associated with YouTube or Facebook in any way.
Yep.
And all the little details are in the pinned comments. You can do that. Guys, thank you. John, thank you.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
I want to see you guys being good to each other. Out there in the world, be kind to each other, be good to yourselves. And I want to see you and an easel really soon. Bye-bye.